Hi there, Equinox owners. Today in your 2014 Chevrolet Equinox, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Roadmaster's Diode Wiring Kit. Your Diode Wiring Kit will take all the lighting signals from your motorhome, transfer them to the lights here at the back of the vehicle, and the diodes are installed to prevent any of those signals from backfeeding into your vehicle, causing any damage. Diodes act as a one-way check valve, so the electricity can only go to your lights, illuminating the lights. You can see here that we've got our hazards on, and our motorhome and the lights at the back of the vehicle are blinking just the same. Compared to some of the other options out there, such as magnetic lights or bulb and socket kits, this is going to be a much cleaner installation, and it's going to be there ready to use it every time you hook up. With magnetic lights, you'll have to get them out and set them up each time you want to flat tow, and with the bulb and socket kits, you have to drill into your taillight assemblies, which could potentially lead to leaks in the future. In addition to the diodes and the wiring that you need to get it installed, you'll also get a 6-pole connector for the front of your vehicle, which is the most common connection point for a flat tow setup, as well as your 6-pole to 7-pole coily cable, which is also the most common connection point between your motorhome and your vehicle. Having all the lights at the back of your vehicle mimic what's at the back of your motorhome will ensure people behind you know your intentions when going down the road. This will also keep you DOT compliant in all states. Your diode wiring is one of 5 main components you'll need when flat towing your vehicle. In addition to your diode wiring, you'll need your tow bar, which is the connection between your motorhome and your vehicle, your safety cables, which is a supplemental connection in addition to your tow bar, your base plate, which provides the connection point for your tow bar on your vehicle, and your supplemental braking system, which will use the existing brakes on your vehicle to apply those to help it come to a safe stop when pulling it behind your motorhome. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's go through the installation together so you can have the confidence to do it at home. We'll begin our installation by removing both the passenger and driver side taillight assemblies. To remove those, we'll use a flat-bladed screwdriver to remove the plastic caps located next to our taillight assembly there. We've opened the lift gate to reveal those. Beneath the covers, you'll find 2 bolts, and we're going to remove those with a 10mm socket. You can then remove the taillight assembly by pulling straight rearward. I recommend using a trim panel tool to help assist you pulling it rearward, so you don't break any of the tabs when pulling it out. Once you've removed your taillight assembly, disconnect the electrical connector by pressing it on the release tab and then pulling it off. We can now set our taillight assembly aside where it won't get damaged. We're going to repeat the same process on the other side. We'll now take the wiring that comes in our kit and we're going to push it up from behind our bumper and pull it out behind our taillight assembly. You can see here that the green wire that was attached to it, I went ahead and cut between the 4 wires there and just pulled the green wire off before feeding it up, because our green wire is only going to go on the passenger side and not on this side. Now that we've got it up, we can make our connections here to our wiring. We'll need to separate the brown wire and the yellow wire with the black stripe on it. The brown wire is our taillight wire, and the yellow and black is going to be our brake and turn signal wire for the driver's side. We're just going to snip the tape that's on it there a little bit so we can get a little bit more access to the wiring. And now about halfway up, we're going to take the 2 wires that we need there, the brown and the yellow. We're going to cut those wires, and we're going to strip back each end of these wires. Each of the wires that we had just stripped back, we're going to crimp on a blue spade terminal onto the end of them. So take the blue spade terminals. You can just pull them off your diodes. They will come in your kit attached like that. They just pull right off. It's a little easier to work with when you pull them off. Slide it on the wire and then crimp it down. We're going to repeat that for our 3 remaining wires. With all of our connections made onto our factory wiring, we're going to move on to the harness that we fed up. We're going to separate the wires. This is just like we did with the green wire before feeding them up. Just give a little cut in between, and you can pull them back. We're going to strip back each one of these wires now. Our yellow wire will get a blue spade terminal. And then our brown wire and our white wire, we're going to take these and twist them together. We're going to be using a section of our white wire as a jumper lead to bring our taillight signal from this driver's side connector over to our passenger side. This is going to connect using the yellow spade terminal that comes in your kit. We'll now attach our diodes to our connectors. The side labeled out is always going to connect to the connector side wires. So we'll take one diode, plug the out in. We'll take our other diode and plug the out into that one. For the inside here, where we have two connections, your factory wiring is going to go back on it, so brown to brown and yellow to yellow. And then the new wires that we fed, we will be taking the yellow wire, which is our stop turn circuit, and connecting that to the in of our yellow here. And then the brown and white that we have will go to our last remaining pin on our brown wire circuits. The adhesive backing can be used to stick them to the side of your paneling here, or in a lot of cases you'll find the wiring's pretty short, so you're not going to be able to plug the light back in if you stick it. So what we do is just take the adhesive backing off and then stick the two diodes together. And this will keep them from bouncing around in there independently and making some noise clicking against each other. Went ahead and took one of the zip ties that came in our kit and zip tied our wiring to our factory wiring here for the new wiring that we fed up. This way it keeps it from getting tugged when we're feeding our wiring, from pulling on our connector ends. We can then reinstall the assembly, plug your connector back in, and then slide your taillight assembly back in place. And you can reinstall the screws, tighten them down, and then reinstall the covers by just pushing them back in place. We're now underneath the vehicle and we need to route our green wire across to the passenger side, and we had connected our white wire and our brown wire together. So we're going to need to run some of the white wire over to the passenger side as well. So I've gone ahead and just kind of pulled some of this excess wire we got and routed it across to the other side just to get an idea of how much length I need. And then we're going to cut the white wire. You have to give it a little bit of a snip here as well to be able to pull that wire back to separate it. And we want to make sure that we're having white wire that is connected up to our taillight assembly up there where we connected it to the brown. That's what needs to go across to the other side. We're just routing these behind our bumper, going above whatever we can, going across to the other side. And once we've got across to this side, instead of just taking the wiring and pushing it up here and grabbing it from up top, a trick you can do is run a fish wire down. Now, fish wire can be just about anything. A metal coat hanger works great if you unfold it. We're using a piece of airline tubing. You can then just take some electrical tape, tape your wiring to your fish wire, and then you can just pull your fish wire up. In some cases, this can be a little easier depending on the options you have on your vehicle. You may have more or less under panels and electrical wiring depending on the particular options your vehicle came with. We can then pull our wiring up. Over here on the passenger side, we made the same connections like we did on the driver's side, except we used the brown wire and a dark green with white stripe wire. The wires that we fed over here, we're going to go ahead and cut those to length. We'll strip them back and then attach blue spade terminals to each one. The green wire that we routed across is the passenger side turn signal wire. This one is going to connect to the diode that is connected to our green and white stripe wire. So we'll just bring that over, plug it in. And then the white wire that we ran across is connected to our tail light wire over on the driver's side. We jumpered it across and we're going to plug it into the taillight wiring on this side, which is also a brown wire. And just like we did on the other side, we're going to peel back the backing and attach our diodes together. You can put your passenger taillight assembly in, just like we did on the driver's side. And now we're going to route the rest of our wiring up towards the front of the vehicle where we're going to make our connection to our 6-pole connector. We've now taken the rest of our wiring and routed it towards the front of the vehicle. We're on the driver's side and we just ran it down the frame rail, attaching it to factory wiring whenever possible. When routing your wiring, you want to make sure you avoid anything excessively hot like your exhaust and anything that moves such as your steering or suspension. If you follow your factory wiring, you can be sure that the factory wiring was already routed in a way that it was going to avoid these objects. We then stayed above our suspension and went underneath our fuel tank. Once we got to the front of the fuel tank, we then followed our evaporator and fuel lines towards the front, just zip tying it to the brackets that hold those in place along the way. Once we got here to the last bracket here at the front, just behind our front sway bar, we then routed it up. We used the fish wire trick to get it up there because this is a bit harder of a path to just push wire up and then run and grab it. And once you've got it pulled up, what I like to do is I like to zip tie it to make sure that it doesn't fall back down. And then from our engine compartment, we routed it down and through our mounting location where we're going to be placing our 6-pole connector. This mounting location is going to vary depending on the base plate that you've installed. Our customer has chosen to install a Blue Ox base plate, which put our mounting location right here below our license plate. Now I will say the mounting location on the Blue Ox plate interferes with the license plate, so we did have to bend the mounting location and modify it for it to work properly. We'll then take all our wiring that we've routed here. We're going to strip each one back, slide the rubber protector over your wiring, and then we can make our connections onto our 6-pole connector here. We're going to be using the ones labeled on the back for LT, which is left turn, RT, which is right turn, TM, which is turn signal, and GD, which is ground. We can then poke in the corresponding colored wire into the appropriate spot and tighten the screw down. We're going to start with ground, which is our white wire, poke that into GD, and then tighten it down. We then continued by mounting the brown wire into the one labeled TM, our green wire into the one labeled RT, and our yellow wire into the one labeled LT. In addition to a 6-pole to 7-pole being a more common connection, and that's why it's so widely used for flat toe setups, we also use this because we have additional unused circuits inside of our 6-pole here. We can use these for additional accessories such as a charge line kit, or sometimes you can use it for a monitor wire for your braking system. If you're all done making the connections at the back of your 6-pole connector, you can fill this up with dielectric grease and then we can get it mounted. We're going to be adding more circuits to our connector here in the future for our flat toe setup because we're going to be adding a charge line kit. So I'm not going to put the grease on it now, but I'll show you how to finalize your installation. There is a bracket that comes included with your connector that you can mount it to. There are holes on top to get it mounted. You can run self-tappers up. Since our base plate has these 2 mounting locations here, we're actually just going to slide our connector through the bracket, line those holes up with the mounting spot on our base plate, and then use the included hardware with our base plate to get it attached. On the back side of your connector, you want to make sure you've got your rubber protector pushed all the way up against the connector and fully seated. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's Diode Wiring Kit on your 2014 Chevrolet Equinox.